Hello and welcome to Fireside MSP, your go-to podcast for all things tech in the managed services world. I'm Trevor Mansell, VP of XenTegra Managed Services.
And I'm Brian Clark, Chief Architect and Technology Officer at XenTegra.
Whether you're a tech guru, a business leader, or just curious about the world of managed services, there's a seat by the fire with your name on it.
So sit back, relax, and tune in while we spark up some tech talk. Welcome to Fireside MSP. We are live.
All right. Good morning, Ron.
What's going on? Another rainy day here in Atlanta, huh, Trevor?
Yeah, I think that. Yeah, we've gotten a few of those recently, but that's good. Better than no rain. So you know what? We've got great topic this morning: endpoint management with XenTegra. A lot of new updates. It's been a little bit since we've had one of these podcasts, so excited to get back on here and kind of pick your brain, Brian, and let everybody get everybody up to date on what's happening around endpoint management with XenTegra. So let's just dive right into it. So what's new? I mean, I know there's a lot because we haven't done this in a while. So, but I'll let you deal with that. So.
Yeah, there's quite a bit going on, right? So I think it's fair to preface the conversation with endpoint management to say that there's been a lot of movement in the market, right? As Omnissa has split away from VMware and Citrix has kind of retooled all of their SKUs. A lot of people are kind of changing how they're handling endpoint management. People are in the middle of their Windows 10 to Windows 11 migrations. A bunch of tools have come out. AI has exploded. And so it's kind of like everyone was kind of reevaluating, like, how are my users accessing our applications? How are we securing all of that data? And so we had to sit back and really evaluate what we're looking at. And honestly, what we figured out was, we're going to go with a couple of old reliables and someone new to the party. And so, with our terms of how users are connecting to applications, we still see a lot of people using Citrix. It's still a great platform to log into, and people are still connecting with thin clients. But a lot of people are bringing Windows endpoints on. And so having a tool that could look at both the endpoint that they're using and the EUC environment that they're connecting to was very critical for us. And obviously, we've been a very long time ControlUp partner, so that was just a beautiful fit right there. The platform has really progressed significantly and brings a very powerful single pane of glass, bringing all of that data together. So keeping that in our wheelhouse, 100%. On the other side of the equation, good old Intune as a standby, right? Really powerful for deployment and compliance purposes. We've got a lot of time and tool set invested in Intune, so that was a no-brainer. And then we've brought on the Heimdal security platform, which is just a really nice set of tools to really wrap all the security stuff around all of these other tools. So it brought in vulnerability and patch management. It brought in a SOC team to take care of all the alerts and all the special sauce that goes in with researching what happens on an endpoint in terms of security practices. And then it can do a lot of things that we can do with other products that we had to remove from our platform because they just weren't best in breed or too complicated. So things like PAM or DNS content filtering. Heimdal brings all that security stuff into a single pane of glass and makes it very easy to manage. So there's been a lot of good stuff coming into the technology mix and software application mix, and we're really excited to bring it to our customers.
Awesome. Yeah, no, I love that. And I think you said something that triggered a thought here. When we talk about endpoint management, there's just so many tools. It now is not, there used to be a day where that meant, I'm going to remote control my desktop so I could provide help desk services and I could provide patch management. That was kind of it, or maybe some asset management. Now it's really, the bigger thing is security, and then and every day there's something else that you need to be doing on your endpoints to really protect you, right? So
Totally.
EUC, obviously there's some advantages from a security perspective, but there's always that endpoint that has to be protected. So tell me a little bit about, like, I love the idea that we're consolidating the kind of the technical debt, we'll say, of endpoint management. Can you just kind of briefly kind of talk about that? Like
Yeah.
what features
Yeah.
functionality do you think is like required for endpoint management from security and everything else? And you know, I think how are we limiting that issue of just having so many tools? We're killing our performance. We're having to hire multiple people to manage the platforms and all this stuff. So like, it sounds like we're addressing that, in what we've come up with here.
Yeah. So going back to the tools that I discussed earlier, starting from square one, and we're really, we can laser in on Windows-based endpoints for this discussion. But the one thing that I really need to concern myself is, what do I got? Like, what are my assets? And so when I use Intune, and I use Intune's autopilot functionality from my partner to get my endpoints, I know that they're going to be linked to my company, and I can go ahead and provision applications to push to them, to secure the endpoint and to control the endpoint. So Intune is a great platform and kind of gateway into asset management and an initial device configuration and management, right? And so then from that standpoint, I think the next step is well, antivirus security, right? So when you've been doing endpoint management for a long time, the very first thing you would do is really start securing the endpoint. Get the good old fashioned antivirus installed on there, right? And so it's really grown a lot. It's more than just slapping Trend Micro or McAfee on a machine and letting it scan, right? There's all this next generation antivirus stuff. It all feeds to SIMs and SOARs, and there's a lot of configuration management that has to happen. And so partnering with Heimdal, who kind of offloads all of that configuration task work into their platform and software, it's very similar to Nerdio taking control of an AVD instance. Like Microsoft makes a really great engine with Windows Defender and AVD. But sometimes it's not uncommon for a third-party vendor to really put a nice bow on top of it to give the administrator something to work with. So that's kind of the next point. We secure the endpoint with Heimdal. It controls, make sure that they're on a patching schedule. It controls the applications that are deployed to the machine, gives us full visibility into that security stack. And then finally, right, probably the most popular component of it is ControlUp's physical monitoring of the device, right? So users are going to eventually bog down the machine. They're going to open up 50,000 tabs in Chrome, and the machine's just going to slow down. And we need to be able to figure out why, right? And so ControlUp's real-time analysis and performance data is critical for that. Like it's very help desk friendly. They can type in a computer name, even a username, drill right down in the machine and say, hey, maybe you shouldn't be watching YouTube at work on Starbucks Wi-Fi, right? So you get all that information straight from the ControlUp agent, and they tell, like, are these machines aging out performance wise? Do we need to upgrade, or is it just something the users are doing to themselves? So there's a lot of cool stuff.
So ControlUp, ControlUp's been around for a while, and it's really been, it seems like the focus has been really around EUC workloads in the past. I think most people initially got their taste of it, managing Citrix or VMware or whatever it might be. It's changed a lot. It's the kind of where they've taken that product over the years is pretty amazing. Can you kind of maybe tell us where the additional values are that beyond VDI type end user experience workloads?
Yeah. So probably the biggest component that they've added is a functionality called Secure DX, which really just kind of evaluates the endpoint for any kind of security vulnerabilities that exist. Very, very easy to see, right? It's really a very powerful reporting engine on the endpoint from a security standpoint. And I think that's where a lot of people kind of lose sight of the value, is that security can get very complicated very quickly. And the tool that you choose really needs to be able to present that data so that you can relay that information to the people that need to make decisions on it. So having ControlUp kind of do all of that for you is critical for that. And then so finally, outside of security, they have the Edge DX product, which really deep dives significantly into the performance of the endpoint, right? They really started off in just the EUC space, right? Like they would connect all these things and kind of give you a holistic view of the environment. They've kind of done that for the endpoint itself. So and that's super critical because you can alert on things that are happening on the endpoint, right? Am I running out of space? Am I pegging my CPU? Am I installing applications I shouldn't be? Right? A ControlUp can alert on all of that and actually has smart logic now built into it to run scripts. Okay, if we're running short on space, I'm going to run the recycle bin empty script, right? So it can take proactive measures to make sure that the environment or the device that the user is using isn't impacted behind the scenes, totally transparently to the user. So, being able to execute those scripted actions out of the box very easily without having to disrupt the user is huge.
Yeah. No, I think it's, but I think what everybody's always loved about that product, is just the fact that obviously the interface is awesome. It's simple, time to value, time to
Mhm.
value is pretty quick. But it's also, what's unique about it when you're comparing it to other type of platforms, it's different in the sense that it's a tool, right? It has, you can remote your desktops, you can run scripts against them, automated type things based on alerts. And I don't know, it's a tool and a monitoring analytics product, which I think for a lot of admins was huge. Um, do the DX stuff. Tell me, like, who they're really going after a bit. The bigger market is this DX market. Like, what other product? Like, what are people using today that they would leverage like DX for? Um,
The
because
security
that's
X
that's
platforms.
that's a that's a that's a large. The DEX market is a very is already large. I think I don't know when they define that market, but um, it encompasses a lot of different platforms there.
Yeah, so there's a lot of demand from consumers these days based on everyone needs cybersecurity and cyber liability insurance, right? And you have to prove that you're meeting kind of baseline requirements um, published by security practices on, hey, make sure you have a firewall, make sure you have antivirus, make sure you're patched, right? And so they have to be able to provide this data to those kinds of companies just to get insurance. And so that's probably what's driving that market the most. Now the problem is there's a lot of things you can do. You could script all that stuff through PowerShell, right? It's just very convoluted. You got to keep up with the code. There's so many different standards that you would have to scan to. So having that all in an easy to use couple of clicks package that provides full reports that are executive friendly and can showcase here's our security gaps, here's where we need to focus. I can do all of this stuff. It helps you plan out security changes, right? We're going to make these changes. It's going to break printing. We can do this to fix it, right? There's like a lot of people don't do these security methods and requests and changes because it's going to break stuff that applications have expected this stuff to live this way for years and years and years. And control really helps you say, this is what needs to change. Here's going to be the impact, and can help you move and create a plan to get to that secure platform so you can get insured and move on with your security posture.
Yeah, yeah. No, the one thing that stood out to me, like, for that DX agent out on the Windows endpoint, has it monitors the network for that end user, and I think that is huge. And I think especially organizations that are running EUC workloads out there, they all they really had in the past, for the most part, was that latency number that was coming in on the dashboard.
Hmm.
Being able to like see, okay, their Wi-Fi is they're dropping half the packets. It's and they know that the issue is really quickly. The help desk can figure out that where the issue is, and part of, not that they necessarily can fix it themselves, but they can, at least that communication helps to you know provide a better help desk experience for the person calling in, right? They're not blaming the platform. Typically it's like they blame the platform for every bad experience they have. At least this education and those type of metrics, help to help the admins and the IT business, provide a better experience for everybody.
Absolutely. Having come up through the trenches myself, being able to tell the user why they are having the bad experience, like, oh, there's a massive internet outage in your area and everyone is on the hotspot, right? And we can tell you that. And they're like, oh, okay, that makes sense, right? Once they've got that little nugget of knowledge, they become a lot happier and more open to, I'm going to try and find somewhere else to work. I'll go to a Starbucks or something, right? So there's a lot of value in telling the user why something isn't working the way it should be working.
Yeah. Well, cool. So question for you, if I'm a customer, that or a client that, typically they have, kind of your standard tools for doing endpoint management. Probably some have a longer list than others. Like, what would you say like the biggest value of, bringing XenTegra in and this tool set really bring to the table?
Oh man, I'm going to talk for 30 minutes.
Well, you got 30 seconds. Like,
we have done it a very long time, right? So being EUC people, like our whole world has always been the desktop, whether that desktop has been virtual or not virtual. And both, right? Like we use a desktop to connect to a virtual desktop. So we have a ton of experience in securing the desktop because we always work with the security teams. We always work with the SCCM or patching teams, right? Like we know applications, we know how they interact. So there's a lot, like we know what it takes to get from A to B and the amount of effort it takes to push the ball up the hill. And so we've chosen products that are easy to consume, are effective in their delivery, and bring a lot of value for APIs and modern SaaS applications. That the way they can all talk to each other and interface with ServiceNow is really the platform that we're moving build forward. It's effectively we've chosen tools that we can build a platform on.
so we check a lot of boxes, and make it simple and cost effective. Essentially, is maybe for simplicity's sake. I have to bake these things down. So,
Yeah, I think if you had to ask the architects underneath me, like how Brian designs things, I think it would be keep it simple as the first motto, the first mantra, the first rule of architecture is keep it simple.
yeah, and it's kind of hard, especially this. You talk about once you take a step into the security world, it's just if you look at that ecosystem and the number of vendors, and there's so many. There's just so many vendors, and man, as much as there's so much cool stuff out there, I mean, it doesn't take long before, like you said, like you're just drowned in this soup of like, and you just can't keep up. So no matter, you could have the greatest tools in the world, but if you get to a place where you really don't have the staffing or expertise or whatever else to keep to maximize those, like, and I think everybody runs into that. I mean, I don't think anybody doesn't run into that at some level. So
Truth. Very, very, very.
yeah. But it's easy for technology guys like us where you see something that does something really, really great and they do it the best of anybody else. Like it's it's it, it's not hard to find yourself diving in and finding yourself, okay, well, I've taken on a little bit more than I was planning on.
Yeah, so we see that quite a bit, as being a partner that really partners with our clients. You see them have old tools, and it's the reason they're bringing us in is because they've lost that momentum with the tool, right? They've fallen ahead and they have that tech debt.
Yeah. Well, cool. Anything else?
Yeah, I would just touch on why we've done all of these changes. We still have all the original platforms and products that we've had, but we really had to streamline it for the golden age of AI that's upon us, right? All these tools are API native, API first. They all talk to each other. They're all very easy to use, and they all bring a lot of value, right? So like there's a lot of great products out there, like we were talking about, that have a lot of technical requirements. Right? If you don't got a full-time Linux guy that can recompile his own kernel, right? It's probably an easier option for you. And you know, I think probably channeling my inner Andy Whiteside here is that the tool set that we've selected can work for anybody. From, you know, I've got 5 employees and that I'm renting, you know, a U-Haul and we're all working out of it. We can deploy the stack to you all the way up to the large multi-100,000 enterprise, right? And so it's a scalable tool set. So we're not going to turn anyone away and say you're too big or you're too small. And I think that's really
Okay.
powerful.
Well, I am glad you brought up AI because it's what, I mean, is there a podcast today that doesn't talk about AI? At least you have to. You have to.
Fun fact, I was actually double booked today, and this is an AI talking to you.
Yeah, that's right. Well, hey, it's amazing how fast things are improving. Like Copilot, like that was the worst product ever just 12 months ago, but now it's gotten a whole lot better. I mean, it's not Chat GPT, but it is. The cool thing about it's got all your data, like all your data, in its data, all indexed for you.
Mhm.
So they definitely have an advantage there. But
Totally.
yeah, it's exciting times. And what's cool is that we don't you don't have to we're not having to recreate the wheel here. Like these platforms are you know bringing that technology in, and if you're choosing the right ones, and so
Yeah,
exciting
I would keep an eye
stuff.
out for some good stuff coming from XenTegra. So,
All right, you heard it here. You got Brian has something cooking. So all right, well, hey, thank you, and appreciate everybody jumping on, and you have a great rest of your day.
thanks.
See ya.